They say October's when the garden slows down, but out here I see God's hand still moving. The figs are resting, the bees are still on mission, and somehow the whole place feels alive in the quiet. The pomegranates are easing into their long nap, the watermelon vines are still reaching for the sunlight, and the pollinators, well, they're throwing one last festival. Even the old Jasmine and Rosemary have stories to tell this month. This is the part of gardening that teaches me trust, that growth doesn't always look like progress. So walk with me through the outer beds, where faith meets Florida soil, and even in the fading light, everything's still growing. And so here we are looking at the October garden tour for the outer beds in the backyard. It's been an interesting few weeks. The weather has been just as warm as it always been. Our highs are close to 80. Our lows are somewhere in the mid 60s. That's somewhere around 25 or 26 degrees Celsius down to 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. The interesting thing about that is just over the water behind in this direction, just to the north of us, they've already had temperatures in the 40s. That's right. Just this morning, they were in the 40s just 20 miles over that way. Again, as the water surrounding our area, we get such temperature changes here that it's like we're in a totally different continent sometimes. Anyway, we're going to look around at the garden here, see what's going on. You can see the blackberries behind me are not doing a lot. I have been trying to feed them up into the trellis. We haven't had a lot of growth, but that's to be expected because we're getting down to the point where we know we're going to start winding down growth for the year. We're just waiting for it to actually start happening, waiting for the weather to actually get the signal. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of these other things that we've got going on in the outer bed. You can see our blackberry vines here are doing so very well. In fact, we have such a long piece here. I'm intending to start weaving this thing up over the top here and see if we can get this primocane pointing a little bit better direction so it can get started for the next year. Now, I did notice the tip is actually broken off, but look right there next to it. There's already a new branch starting to come out. That looks like it was cut. I'm not sure what's happened there. And really, this is all I'm going to be doing with the blackberries for the rest of the year, just feeding these vines up through this trellis so that it'll have a place to grow next year. And you can see down the right side over here, they're all filling in over here for some reason this year, and there's not a lot on this side. We'll be fixing that. I do know there's some vines growing down in there that just need some redirecting. In fact, I can see right here, this one just needs a direction. That's all. A little bit of an unruly child. Nothing new. The pomegranates. And okay, friends, we're talking about some trees that are going into dormancy. They're losing their leaves. They're starting to look a little more worn, a little less like pomegranates. You can see that the birds have been eating a lot of the seeds, which is okay with me because they deserve some of the food too. And we're keeping birds in this area. This has just been an amazing year for the birds. I do want to point out, we have the tomato plants. Now, we've had a few nice bright red tomatoes, and I see more little green tomatoes up there that are going to be coming out pretty soon. And Mrs. Bowtie will be getting her salad tomatoes here quite soon indeed. And of course, the big question here is, will these tomatoes do good in this tree? They've done okay. None of my tomatoes have done very well at all this year, which is a little disappointing, of course. We'll just have to try it again next year and see if we can do any better and get these Everglades tomatoes growing up inside the pomegranate trees. You'll notice because the leaves are starting to go down that the tomato plant now has sunlight getting to it to grow its tomatoes. And that was the whole idea. We'll have to see if it's going to work. I just don't know. Back of the blackberries, you can see there's more blackberries. There's even some goji berry plants in here that we could do something with. A lot of suckers still coming out on these pomegranates, and the tomato plant that was in this grow bag right here is just gone. It's gone. I don't know where it went. It's totally evaporated. The one over here, this one has died, and well, I say it's died. There are some green stems up in here, but I don't know that we're going to get anything out of them. I'm really a little discouraged about this whole experiment, growing the Everglades up inside the pomegranate trees. The pomegranate trees themselves, of course, are looking fairly normal. they're starting to decline. And that's what they're supposed to do. They're getting ready to rest for the next year. Now the blueberries, you can see down here, I've started to spread some of our cut grass down here as a mulch, hopefully to give it some food, hopefully to cover over some of those weeds. All through there, I've started spreading out that grass because we've just had way too much. And now with the leaves falling, I'll be vacuuming up more leaves and getting those ground up and back in here for more mulch so we can keep this back. Now, I just noticed, I had not seen this until just now, we have an air potato, and every once in a while we come in here and we have to remove an air potato. Look how this thing is just wrapped around this plant right here, this stem, and it is just going to try to choke it out. But I've got to get down here and figure out where this thing starts. This is the scourge that I deal with. Thanks to the previous owner planting one of these, I have to find, oh, is that it right there? Do I feel it? Oh, that would be cool. Oh my goodness, looky there. Looky there, I feel it. It's a little tiny bubble, little tiny crumb of air potato right there. Oh, that's amazing. That is the bottom of this plant. And that's how this works sometimes. When I first got here, I hit some of these with the lawnmower and they sprayed everywhere, and they are still coming up. I will take this air potato. Now, some air potatoes are edible, some are not. And as far as I know, this is not one that is edible. I'd love to talk to David the Good and find out if he can tell me about this particular one. There are ways to tell the difference in here, and I have been fighting these things. Of course, about the time I figure out these things are actually edible, I may actually regret tearing all these out. But yes, that's my habit. That's how I do things sometimes. Another turmeric plant back here in the back, and we've also pulled several of the little trees that have been back in here. So I'm happy to see some of this getting a little bit thinned out as far as trees are concerned. The bee box is looking amazing. Lots of activity, and that's really something that's just blowing my mind, is all the activity from the bees and all the other pollinators. These bees are just going nuts over here. Now, in all reality, I'm not sure. There's not something going on in there. They just seem to be hovering outside the box. I wonder if there's something up inside their bee box, and that is not my department. This bee box belongs to a friend. That's interesting. I see a few going in, not very much. But they are busy. They're busy, busy, busy. Busy like bees, imagine that. Our comfrey down here is looking just amazing. Mint, remember we just dealt with this mint a couple months ago. We put in this little irrigation head. Look how beautiful this mint is looking, and it's just all over the place. I chopped a lot of this out just last month, and it's all growing back. Look how strong it is. This thing was brown last month. It was just brown and dead looking. It's already looking strong again, and that's what mint will do for us. We do somewhere over here have an Asian ground orchid right here, and it's kind of buried. We're going to have to unbury some of this. We will be coming in here and taking out a lot of this Bindens alba pretty soon, because it's just getting down to that time of the season. The elephant ears up here, of course, are just looking very interesting. Our little bird bath that you are using as a bee bath is looking quite miserable. If you've seen my bird bath out front, you know how poorly I do with keeping up with bees. I'm opting to give those bees a little more space and not threaten their area, because they're just looking a little overly active right now. The Bindens alba in the Cathedraloupe here, of course, are looking amazing everywhere. The bees, it just blows my mind. You know, we come down to this time of year and we just see so much stuff happening with this. The bees are getting ready for their end of the year. And of course, you can see the fig tree. It looks miserable. It looks like it's dying. Friend, this is what happens when we come down to winter. It knows the cold is coming. Doesn't really feel like it here yet, but it knows it's coming, and so all of its leaves are dropping. This thing is going dormant, and now we actually have a chance to see the shape of the tree that we're going to have to do some trimming on. I am going to be topping these top 2, maybe 3 branches up here, at about 8 feet high so that they will start growing out. I wouldn't mind them coming out this way a little bit more over the Cathedraloupe. Still don't know what we're going to do with the Cathedraloupe. We're talking about taking it out, doing something different. It's really up in the air. This back fig tree, you can see how beautiful the lattice is on this, the shape of the branches. We got 4 main branches coming out into 4 different directions with a main leader going up to a next level here and a next level. We are going to have to start topping some of these branches as well because I don't want this tree to get that big. Now that's going to be a challenge because of the Loquat hedge right next to it here. These Loquats are getting pretty tall. These things are getting a little bit out of hand, and I'm going to have to end up topping these, but I'm going to give these things the chance to fruit in the spring before I top them. And we'll have to see if they will produce. I still haven't figured out if they produce on new fruit or old fruit. I do watch these ends real closely to see what they look like. I would like to know, if you know what these things do, I need to do some better research and figure out what direction to go with that. But the Loquats are looking ever so green because they are an evergreen. These things will keep their leaves all winter long and look just as beautiful. If you have any questions or want to share any experiences, please do down in the comments below. I do have questions about those Loquats. What are we supposed to do with those? When are they going to start fruiting for me? The passion fruit, when is that going to start fruiting for me? Is it going to come out next year? I hope it does. I'm planning on feeding it here this winter with some of our compost, and hopefully we can see some production out of that next year. Be sure to share in the comments below though, because I love hearing from y'all, and I have learned so much from everybody in the comments below. Past the Loquat hedge, we have our remaining lemon tree, and this is the one right here that I am kind of keeping an eye on. I know it's buried in Bindens alba right now, and we're just going to have to live with that for just a little bit longer. We come over here after that, we have our comfrey plant that's back here. We still need to dig up some comfrey and start the new plantings of comfrey. But right next to that, we are looking at our watermelon patch. And oh my goodness, this thing is starting to produce again. Here it is, the end of October. In fact, I hadn't even seen this one, but I put this one in a cage. Look at that monster. Look at that monster. It is looking beautiful. I'm trying to find the tendril on it. It looks like it might still need a little bit more ripening up before it's totally ready. We have another one right here that needs another cage. Isn't that the coolest thing? So yeah, got to get another cage on that thing. There's another one with a cage around it over here. That's to protect it from, I don't know, rats, squirrels. Not sure what's eating them, but something eats them. I'm presuming it's probably rats, but you can see here this one's protected as well. There's the tendril. It hadn't died quite all the way back yet. I'm going to let it go as long as I can. That one's probably going to end up being a smaller one than that one over there, just because. We're coming around here next to the amazing brown turkey fig tree, and we've got 2 of these growing. The front one is not nearly as big as this. I'm just amazed at how many figs are on this thing. I keep looking at this, watching for these things. We did lose 2 of them. I let it get a little too ripe. Oh well. It happens. We're going to hopefully get a couple more figs out of these, and watching for them to start changing color, get better. In fact, I see one right now. Oh my goodness. Looky here. This one right back here is just starting to get a little bit of color on the tip of it right there. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that closer than the last one. I got a busy week last week, and I came out and noticed that the 2 that were about to ripen, which were up there in that little branch where all those others are, just split open, had all kinds of bugs in it. Oh well, they have to eat too. And of course, right next to me is the passion fruit, the purple possum passion fruit. And we're anxiously waiting to see what this thing will do. I have been trimming back some of these vines that are getting away from us. You can see they're starting to climb down in the back over here, and I've got to keep this in control. So we will work on trimming this, keeping it on the arbor and not spreading over to everything, because passion fruit will do that. Down here right below this, of course, we have some more mint. And why do we have mint, friend? If you've been watching, you know that mint keeps rats and squirrels at bay, and this thing is a monster mint plant. It even needs a major trim. Oh, did you hear that? That's actually, nope, it's not. It's something else under here. Thought maybe it was rooting in, but it is not. I do have to keep this various kinds of ivy from growing over it quite frequently, which is a little bit of a nuisance, but this thing is under here where we've had plenty of rat activity, and as long as this big old plant is sitting here, we don't have any trouble. It does have an irrigation head right there that pretty much keeps this thing watered. If you followed along, you know we just planted these passion fruit trees. We planted these passion fruit vines recently, and these things are just taking off amazingly. I'm so pleased with how they look. We're hoping to get fruit off of this thing. Will it come next year? I don't know. Jasmine, of course, is looking very strong. I do want to point out we've been eyeing these 2 seed pods right here. I'd like to just try to grow some of these from seed. You can see it starting to turn color on that side where the sun hits it in the morning. And I think we just need to let this thing continue to develop and do what it's supposed to do. I do want to collect those pods though and try to get some seeds for jasmine. I don't know if that's a thing or not. We'll have to see. But it is just looking so very strong. This next year, this tree is going to be covered in little white flowers. It's going to be amazing. I can formally announce that our wood pile will be disappearing soon. In fact, if I come through here, now see that looks pretty solid. If I kick it a little bit more, you can see the wood is starting to totally rot underneath there. And that's going to give me the opportunity to actually come in and move some of this stuff. The solar weed sauna has not been swapped out in quite a while. Yes, I know, I've been busy. Busy. I think I may need to call my channel the Busy Gardener, but Cameron already has that name and he does a fantastic job with it. Coming along here, we're just letting things go at their own pace. The Bindens alba is going crazy. I do want to show you what's right on the other side of the fence over here though. This is our pumpkin plant that's gone over into my neighbor's yard, and we have down here, we have this one pumpkin, but I cannot find any male flowers. We do have inside the cage here one pumpkin that has been pollinated to the best of my ability, and we're hoping that it will actually take. It's obscured by all the leaves right now, so we can't really see it from this angle. Here's a picture of it from the other side though. I believe that my big mistake was using this black woven fabric on the watermelon patch. If we had had it actually more accessible to soil, in fact you can see here we had corrugated board, and if we had a place where we could open it up and touch the soil with those vines, I believe we probably could have done better, had more opportunity to start different vines and actually make better life. So I might try this corrugated here next year underneath pumpkins. Have to try this again next year. The dodder was not helpful. The dodder is an interesting vine. I've been learning more about it. It actually starts from a seed, puts down some temporary roots, and then grows and attaches itself to another plant, which you can see here. And when it attaches to another plant, the roots actually will die off and become useless, because it will send these little tendrils into, and they're not tendrils, they're whatever this word is across the bottom. That's what it sends into these other plants, and it leaches out of the other plants. It has no leaves of its own, just little flowers and seeds. And that's all that is of this plant, dodder, D-O-D-D-E-R. It can be a real pain. We're going to have to work better at keeping this under control. I can actually see seeds from it down there. Yeesh. Happy to have the black plastic now, I guess. Okay, coming around here past the watermelon patch and past the corn patch that never got planted this year because it was just a busy year. We have our one Meyer lemon. Look at that thing. It's starting to color up. It's starting to look beautiful. I am so excited to see that, because that means This tree is going to start producing. It's the only one on the tree as far as I can find. It's enormous. I mean, look how huge this thing is. That's beautiful. Hopefully we can get our Meyer lemon trees back up and running since the freeze of 2022 on Christmas that killed most of our citrus plants. It was very discouraging. A little bit more on the pumpkins. I have been watching this thing here for some male flowers to pollinate with, but there just simply have not been any viable looking male flowers. I've actually taken some flowers that don't look very viable and planted them instead. Well, that didn't go very well, of course. This is the pomegranate tree that I'm thinking might be gone, and I'm going to probably let it sit here because I don't have time to take it out. Our legacy rosemary tree over here, that we have a lot of rosemary plants coming out of over in those trays. This pomegranate is actually looking really good, but it also has a tomato plant in it. And I'm hoping that this thing will start. It looks terrible. It's going to be a real pain to get out of the tree, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we can just cut it and yank it out. A few pomegranates up in here still looking okay, providing the birds with food, of course. So something's going on up in this tree, and we have a cat in the garden with me. He's one of my neighbor's cats, and he is always welcome here because they do hard work in the garden. I appreciate them being here. More Bindens alba. The Bindens alba has just totally taken over this whole end of the property. I'm going to have to be very aggressive on this. Our umbrella papyrus is just looking beautiful. It needs to be planted out somewhere. So many things need to be planted out somewhere. It's just kind of ridiculous. Of course, our one Loquat left in a seed cup has been sitting in that seed cup for like 2 or 3 years. The other one died. We had 2 of them for a while. We still have the Dino kale sitting in here, needing some planting up. The pineapples needing some planting up. Oh, in fact, oh my goodness. I cannot believe this pineapple plant is actually putting out pups. That is a sign of a healthy plant, right? I hope so, because I mean, this thing is amazing. I have got to get these things planted out. These are pineapples that I ate and enjoyed and just bought them so I could plant new ones. There's some more of that Dino kale needs to be planted. Tons and just tons of rosemary everywhere in here. One more Carolina jasmine plant left that is looking quite miserable indeed. Sometimes life just gets busy. That citronella that we did cuttings off of is looking huge. We need to get those things in bigger and better pots as well. And of course, this gets down to the time of year where we just have to plug through, do one task at a time, and sometimes we just have to let things go. And that's really been my situation because I've had some challenges. My back has been hurting me. I've been finishing some huge jobs, and we will be getting back out to this garden. I really want to get some of this sugar cane put into the ground and growing. This stuff looks amazing, and I would love to have a stand of sugar cane growing somewhere back here that would give us something to chew on. I don't know. Why am I growing sugar cane? It always just interested me. Well, we're going to look at that in the next part of the garden tour because we've actually been doing harvests from the raised beds. And the magnolia trees, of course, nothing much has changed. Still have to trim that palm tree. The other magnolia tree, they're all going to sleep for the season. Now they are evergreen, which means they have green leaves year round, and they will look this beautiful all the time. Last and certainly not least is our compost. We have such a full compost bin right now, and we have to rebuild. We will be rebuilding our compost bins this year because this stuff is just going away. And really, this is one of the reasons why I just use pallets for my compost bin, because they're going to rot. They're going to last a few years, and then you're going to have to replace them. And I've never really spent a lot of time making fancy compost bins because this is what's going to happen to them. They're still holding that one area together. I think I might change things for next year. We'll have to see if we can redesign my whole idea of a 3-bin compost system anyway. And so yes, A lot of stuff going on in the garden, mostly with the pollinators, which is what we want all year long anyway. The birds are just chirping away just like they have all year because they have plenty of food to eat. And I'm one very tired gardener. I'm sure you can probably tell. I've been working on other projects like I've mentioned before, and sometimes you just have to give yourself grace and love the garden. And we're going to talk about why I garden and some of the things that make me happy in this garden in Chad's upcoming Coast to Coast video. Actually, by the time this comes out, maybe it's already out, I don't know, but you'll be able to see a little bit more of that story, so be sure to go over and check that out. There's a symbol here in the corner that means there's a link down below that goes to that video. I think it's very exciting that that pineapple is actually putting out pups, and it's going to get me motivated to get that thing in the ground sooner than later, because that's got to get moving. And then this sugarcane, there's stuff going on, friend, and it's just the way the garden goes. And sometimes life gets in the way, things happen. We're doing the house remodel, and I'm actually making progress on the house remodel. I have a little motivation. Mrs. Bowtie and I have been talking about that a lot, trying to get things moving on what we're doing inside the house. And really, that's one of the great things about gardening. You take a year off, and you know what? The garden's still going to be here next year. It's not a one and done thing. You get another opportunity next season. And always remember that nothing is so stressful that you need to be worrying about it, hurting your health, and just being challenged over things that are happening out here. For me, the garden is really an area of relaxation. I get out here, I know it doesn't look great. Sometimes it looks better than others, and that's okay because it's my garden. And that's where it gets down to the end here where I say, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be yours. Don't compare yourselves to other gardeners. There are gardeners out there that do amazing jobs. There are gardeners out there that do better than anyone else. And you know, the interesting thing is, I go look at Garden Answer, Laura over there and her husband, Aaron. I watch them every morning, but Laura and Aaron have this beautiful gardens out there that go on forever, and they're constantly growing more. And still, she says, I don't see some of the things that go right. I see the things that go wrong. And you can't dwell on those things, and she knows that. She's trying to help us learn that as well. Things that don't look quite what you were hoping they would look like, you know what? They look the way God wants them to look, because God created this. God made this be a beautiful place, and it really is. Everything about this is beautiful. All the variety of plants, everything is in His plan. And I know for me, choosing not to be stressed over these things that I simply cannot control is going to give me a happier quality of life. And that's really what I want out here. I look across here and I see tons and tons of plants that haven't been tended to. I see some plants that have been tended to. I have a few important crops coming up. In fact, we're going to talk about one of them here in the raised garden bed tour, which will be right after this. I didn't mention this is actually part 2 of 3. We have the raised garden bed tours coming up very soon. So be sure and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up on this video. Follow along with everything going on in the garden, and hopefully I can get some more rest before we hit that raised garden bed, because there's been some harvests and I'm very excited to see some of the things that are coming. Now, I do want to mention, no, I'm not going to mention that because it's the raised garden bed tour, but there's going to be another hot pepper eaten here pretty soon. I'm very excited because we're doing something different with that. So with all that, I say, your garden doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. Have a blessed day.